The day I discovered my twin sister was a romance player, I realized her target to conquer was actually my fiancé. Only by marrying him could she survive. When her mission failed, she fell into a coma. My fiancé was in a complete panic. He dropped to his knees by my sister's hospital bed, his voice trembling with remorse as he begged her over and over to forgive him. "So what you said was true. If you don't marry me, you really will die. I regret it. Please wake up, then let's get married immediately." Okay. That evening, he replaced our wedding flowers with my sister's favorite Juliet roses. He had the world's only one-of-a-kind wedding dress shipped from overseas, placed the engagement ring meant for me onto her finger, and proposed to her right there in the hospital room. Everyone around them played along. When I saw my mother personally help my sister into the wedding dress, I smiled faintly and spoke to the system in my mind. Mission failed, right? What they didn't know was I was also a player. And my mission, ironically, was the same as my sister's. The day my sister, Samantha Stone, woke up, my fiancé, Ryan Brooks, burned all our wedding invitations. I was still holding the guest seating chart I had just retrieved. "Samantha has woken up. I promised her I'd give her a wedding," he said so casually. "And what about me?" My voice was flat. "We'll talk when she's better." He finally turned to face me, dark circles shadowing his eyes from nights of worry. "The doctors are calling it a miracle, Ashley. Can you understand?" Ashley? It had been so long since I last heard him call me by my name. I understood then. To him, Samantha and I were no longer the same in his heart. In my mind, the system's alert kept sounding repeatedly. "Please complete the mission, or immediate erasure will be executed." "Ryan," I called out to him, watching his back. "Can we at least have our wedding first? Even if it's simple, just getting the marriage certificate would be fine." He froze, his eyes widening in surprise. "What?" I wanted to say I was dying, but the words changed before they left my mouth. "I can't wait anymore. Ashley." My mother rushed out of the hospital room, grabbing my arm tightly. "What nonsense are you saying? Your sister just woke up. Can't you be more considerate? Do you want to be the reason she dies again?" Her grip was tight, her nails digging into my flesh. Ryan rubbed his forehead tiredly, his tone worn. "Ashley, stop making a scene. Samantha needs me right now." "What about when I needed you?" The words left my mouth before I even thought about it. We both froze. Ryan's expression darkened. "How could you be so unreasonable?" My mother quickly echoed him. "Ashley, love isn't about who came first. Ryan loves your sister now, and you want to steal her happiness?" I let out a small laugh. But it was Ryan who pursued me in the first place. If it weren't for Samantha's repeated schemes for her mission, we would have been married by now. The system pinged with a new message. "Due to plot deviation, an alternative option is provided. Secure a sincere declaration of love from Ryan. Mission will be considered complete. Time limit, 24 hours. I looked up at Ryan, who was already on the phone. "Yes, don't send the wedding dress yet." "Yes." Samantha woke up. She might want to choose it herself. The sunlight streamed through the hallway window, half of his face bathed in light, the other half in shadow. I suddenly remembered last year on my birthday, how he ran across half the city to get me a cake. He called my name downstairs, saying, "Ashley, I'll love you for a lifetime." Back then, the words came so easily to him, his eyes full of sincerity. "Ryan," I interrupted his call. He frowned and covered the phone's mouthpiece. "What's wrong now? Do you love me?" The hallway suddenly fell silent. Ryan looked at me as if I were crazy. "You're asking this now? Just this once." I stared at him. "Do you love me? Honestly, if you say, 'I love you,' I'll never bring up the wedding again. You can spend as much time as you want with her and marry her whenever you want." The system's countdown ticked in front of me. 23 hours, 58 minutes, and 12 seconds. He was silent for about 10 seconds. Finally, he sighed and reached up to ruffle my hair. "Of course I do. But this is a life we're talking about. We can't be that selfish." The moment his words finished, the system remained silent. I grabbed the sleeve of his shirt in panic. But Ryan was getting impatient. I already told you what you wanted to hear. Isn't that enough? Just go home and calm down. I'll go check on Samantha. Ryan, what if I tell you that if you don't marry me, I'll really die? His back stiffened. Just like Samantha. I said it vaguely, but my voice began to tremble. If I said I'm dying too, would you save me first? The system's countdown pulsated like a heartbeat. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 21 seconds. Ryan slowly turned back around. He looked at me for a long time, his eyes complicated. Finally, he spoke. Stop joking around. Then I smiled. Fine, then give me a real confession, like you did when you were chasing me. That's possible, right? His Adam's apple bobbed. Fine. You promise? Yes. Samantha posted an update on Instagram. Caption: so incredibly lucky to share the first light of this new beginning with you. The first photo was of a sunrise. At the mountaintop, above the sea of clouds, Ryan's silhouette with her hand reaching toward the sun. The second was from a mall, with a claw machine. Ryan frowned as he manipulated the joystick, while Samantha bounced excitedly beside him, directing him. The third was of her holding a stuffed toy, with Ryan standing beside her, smiling helplessly yet indulgently. The fourth photo was taken at a dessert shop downstairs from the hospital, where she had purposely smeared cream on Ryan's nose. The fifth and sixth photos. I swiped through them, my fingertips cold. The last one was of Ryan's back in the kitchen. The noon sunlight cast a golden halo around him. My parents left comments below. May all your wishes come true, sweetheart. Get well soon. Thumbs up to Ryan. This is what true love looks like. I stared at the two comments for a long time. I sent Ryan a voice message. Ryan, you said, as long as you promise me something, you would never go back on your word. I'll wait for you on this university track until you come. He replied almost immediately, but with only one word. Okay. The system's prompt echoed in my mind. Countdown. 12 hours, 41 minutes, and 3 seconds. By 7 p.m., the sky had begun to darken. There were still students running on the track. In the distance, the library lights were on. I sat on the highest step, where I could see the entire track and the entrance. Countdown. 8 hours. I sent Ryan another message. Are you here yet? No reply. At exactly 8 p.m., the stadium lights suddenly went out, leaving only a few ground lamps. I turned on my phone's flashlight, and the beam flickered across the empty bleachers. I called Ryan. On the 7th ring, it was finally answered. The background noise was loud, with crackling sounds and clattering noises. Hello. Ryan's voice sounded frantic, as if he were busy with something. Ryan, it's 8 o'clock, I said. There was a pause on his end, followed by the even clearer sound of something frying in a pan. Oh, right. The pork ribs are almost done. Samantha's been waiting for me to cook. She hasn't eaten yet. Once she's had dinner, I'll come find you. The oil crackled loudly, and he let out a startled sound. Samantha's voice came through the phone, bright and clear. Ashley, you're so clumsy. Turn the heat down. It's burning. Ryan's voice followed, gentle but distracted. Don't come over. Watch out for the oil splatter. I raised my voice a little. You promised you'd prepare properly, just like you did back then. I know, he replied, impatience starting to lace his tone. But she has to eat, doesn't she? Samantha hasn't eaten properly all day. The doctor said she needs nutrition. I'll hurry. I'll come as soon as I'm done cooking, okay? How long will that take? I asked. Half an hour? No, an hour. I promise I'll be there soon. In the background, Samantha's playful complaint floated through. Ryan, who are you talking to? The pan's going dry. Coming, he answered hurriedly. Then, to me, his voice grew sharper. All right, I really have to go. Be sweet and go home first. I'll come pick you up later. I realized then he didn't even remember what he'd promised me. Ryan, I called out. But he'd already hung up. All that remained was the dull tone of the disconnected call. I sat in the darkness, the sounds around me fading into silence. A teardrop fell onto the back of my hand, cool and sudden. Countdown. 6 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. 7 hours left. I opened my phone. Samantha had posted a short video. The camera was focused on a plate of braised short ribs. Her laughter bubbled lightly through the audio. Not bad for your first try. Your reward is to finish it all. In the last 2 seconds of the video, the camera shook and swept past Ryan's face. He was smiling a slightly goofy, unguarded grin. I hadn't seen him smile like that in so long. I stood up, my legs stiff and tingling. Walking to the edge of the bleachers, I looked down. The track was empty now. Then my phone rang abruptly. I quickly pulled it out. Auto added to the library. But the smile froze on my face when I saw the caller ID. The phone kept vibrating insistently. It was my mom. The moment I answered, her voice lashed out before I could even speak. Ashley Stone, get home right now. How dare you force Ryan to confess to you? What are you even trying to prove? Do you really have to act out this pathetic drama of two sisters fighting over one man? Have you no shame? I'm telling you now, Ryan and Samantha's wedding is set for next week. Just accept it. I've already spoken to Ryan. He won't be coming. No one's going to indulge your little stunt. Get yourself home. Now. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. Samantha didn't feel ashamed of stealing her own sister's fiancé. Why should I feel ashamed? With that, I hung up. Countdown. 5 hours, 12 minutes, and 33 seconds. Just then, a light snow had begun to fall from the sky. I collapsed on the school track. When I woke up, I was staring at the ceiling of a hospital room with a dull ache in my lower abdomen. The nurse handed me a sheet of paper. You're pregnant, already 8 weeks along. How could you be so careless, lingering outside in this cold weather? I widened my eyes in shock, the nurse's words hitting me like a ton of bricks. I took the ultrasound sheet from her. There was a small shadow, about the size of a bean. Suddenly, it dawned on me. The system must have detected this baby. That was why it changed the mission at the last moment. I clenched the test sheet and dialed Ryan's number. Hello. Ryan's voice was low. Ryan, I have something important to tell you. I'm busy. We'll talk later. But it's about. The call was suddenly disconnected. The screen darkened, reflecting my pale face. I pulled out the phone, quickly heading home. When I opened the door, my parents and Ryan were already there, flipping through wedding dress catalogs on the coffee table. They were picking out a wedding dress for Samantha. My arrival broke the warm scene. Mom furrowed her brows and instinctively said, "Why are you so late?" I didn't look at her, just kept my eyes fixed on Ryan. I walked up to him, took out the crumpled test sheet, and handed it to him. Ryan, I'm pregnant. It's our baby. The air froze. Samantha suddenly sat up straight, her face as white as a sheet, staring at me in shock. Little Ashley, how could you lie like this just to take Ryan back? Mom's face twisted with anger, shaking with rage. Have you no shame? You're using such despicable tactics to steal your sister's man? Do you really have to push her until she breaks? Dad looked at me, letting out a heavy sigh. Ashley, you've really disappointed us. How could you use something like this to threaten us? I only looked at Ryan. His expression shifted, conflicted and uneasy. He glanced at Samantha's pale, shaken face. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. Then he looked at me, speaking slowly. Ashley, I never thought you'd go this far. Even if you're pregnant, I can't betray Samantha. I promised her I would marry her. I stared at the man before me. This face I had kissed so many times, traced its contours countless times, now felt as unfamiliar as if I had never known him. I remembered how, in moments of passion, he would press his forehead to mine. We'll have 2 kids, one like you, one like me. I'll take care of you and our kids for the rest of my life. The luckiest thing in my life was meeting you. Those words still echoed in my ears. But the person who said them was now standing beside Samantha. Love, I could let go of. But this child, I didn't want to let go. Ryan, I rushed forward, grabbing his sleeve, holding up the test sheet. Look at the baby. I don't need you to marry me, Just save the baby, please. Enough, he yelled, shaking me off with force. I stumbled backward, my back hitting the wall, a sharp pain shooting through my lower abdomen. His eyes were as calm as if he were looking at a stranger. I just want to help Samantha survive. Once she's better, I'll make it up to you. Scene. I slid down to the floor, unable to hear anything anymore. Mom and Dad pulled me up and dragged me out of the living room. Behind us, I could hear Samantha's sobs and Ryan's attempts to comfort her. Once back in my room, Mom shut the door. She pointed at my abdomen. Are you really pregnant? I raised my tear-swollen eyes to look at her. Stop making A. Before I could speak, a look of panic flashed across her face and she spoke quickly. You need to get rid of it. You can't have it. It will destroy Samantha and destroy you. Dad spoke earnestly, trying to calm me. Ashley, let go. Think about the family, think about Samantha. She can't handle the stress. We need you to be less selfish. You only lost love, but Samantha might actually lose her life. I looked at the two people who should love me most in this world. A faint, bitter smile touched my lips. I glanced at my angry mother, then at my silent father. I walked out of the house in silence. My parents watched me with what looked like heartbreak in their eyes. But neither of them tried to stop me. The snow kept falling, thickening on the bleachers, covering everything in a heavy white layer. The world was so quiet, all that could be heard was the sound of snow falling and the increasingly slow beat of my own heart. I remembered the days when Samantha was in a coma. Mom cried all day, Dad aged years in just one night, and Ryan seemed to have lost a soul. I went to work during the day, spent nights at the hospital keeping watch, brought them meals, listened to them repeat over and over. If only Samantha would wake up. No one asked if I was tired. It was as if everything I did was expected. Even though I was also their child, I felt like a ghost in my own family. My phone lit up. A message from Ryan. Ashley, Samantha is feeling unwell again. I really can't leave. Can we do it another time? I'll make it up to you. I'll confess 10,000 times, I promise. At that moment, I seemed to understand Ryan's thoughts. He couldn't bear to see Samantha die because of him. He didn't want to carry that heavy burden of guilt. And so, I became the only sacrifice in this entire mess. Oh, and the child. It turned out that a person could die in an instant. The one who would overthink every text he sent late at night. The one who would remember every little thing about him. Every preference. The one who would take every casual forever seriously for years. That foolish Ashley. She was completely gone. So-called love. In the end, the result was always the same. He walked toward someone else, and I was left behind. I moved my stiff fingers, wanting to block him, wanting to delete the chat history, wanting to erase the trace of these 5 years. But in the end, I just turned off the screen. Forget it. Just like you can't wake up someone who's pretending to sleep, you can't demand an expired love from someone who has already turned away. All my persistence, all my waiting. The moment he chose Samantha, it had all turned into a complete joke. Just then, Samantha posted a new update. In the photo, the window glass was fogged with warmth, vaguely reflecting the silhouettes of two people. The soft yellow light looked so warm. The caption read, I hope that every person I love has someone to warm their hands, someone to warm their heart. May all waits not be in vain. A row of likes followed. May all waits not be in vain. I laughed. I laughed until tears rolled down my cheeks. The countdown hit its final moments. 3, 2, 1. The world fell completely silent. Not even my heartbeat could be heard. The system's voice echoed. Mission failed. Erasure successful. I began to float. I looked down, seeing my lifeless form covered in snow on the bleachers. My body hung limp, like it was asleep. The phone slipped from my stiff hand, falling into the snow. The screen flashed one last time, then went dark. After death, my soul didn't disappear. Instead, it returned home. I saw my mom, holding her phone, furrowing her brows. This rebellious girl still won't answer her phone. Won't reply to any messages. She's really crossed the line this time. Dad poured a cup of coffee, speaking slowly to calm her down. Forget it. She's just upset. Let her be for a while. Didn't Ryan already decide to marry Samantha? She won't get anywhere by causing a scene. She'll come to her senses sooner or later. Come to her senses? I floated in the air, watching them. Yes, to them, I was just the unreasonable one, trying to compete with sister. No one would think that the daughter they called spoiled and tantrum-prone was lying cold in the
snow,
never to wake again. Mom and Dad were sitting in the living room, watching TV and chatting. Dad was peeling an apple, sighing, "How did things get like this with both of our daughters?" Mom was tidying up the wedding invitations on the coffee table, not even looking up. "It's because you spoiled her. She used to be so sensible as a child, but now, the older she gets, the more unreasonable she becomes."
I knew Mom was talking about me.
Dad paused, letting out another sigh. Ashley has indeed been wronged. But we can't just disregard Samantha's life because of her. Wronged? What wrong could she have? Mom grabbed her phone and dialed my number again. Hearing the busy tone, she raised her voice in frustration. "You little wretch, you blocked me? You'd better never come back." It wasn't that. My phone had frozen because of the snowstorm. But sadly, they couldn't hear my explanation. But this time, I could finally listen to my mother. Because I could never go back. Ryan was standing on the balcony, smoking. I saw his hands typing quickly on the screen, and I leaned over to see. It was a message for me. "Ashley, enough of the drama. You know that Samantha and I are getting married. Is there even any point to making such a scene anymore?" 10 minutes later, he texted, "Can we wait until the wedding is over to talk about everything?" Half an hour later, he typed, "Samantha and I haven't even gotten our marriage certificate yet. Can't you just wait a little longer?" But I still didn't reply. Ryan grew more and more anxious with each passing day. By the third afternoon, Ryan couldn't hold it in any longer and called me. At that moment, my body was discovered and my phone had just finished charging. The call connected. It was the voice of a strange man. "May I ask your relationship with the owner of this phone? Are you a family member? Who are you?" "This is the police department. The owner of this phone has passed away. The time of death was approximately 72 hours ago. We need family members to come identify the body." I floated behind Ryan, watching as his hand gripping the phone turned white with tension, his fingers trembling slightly. Then, he suddenly tugged at the corner of his mouth, as if he'd just heard a funny joke. Is this Ashley's new stunt? Is she really willing to go to such lengths to stop the wedding? The other side of the call paused for a second. "Mr. Brooks, please take this seriously. This is not a joke. The body's condition is deteriorating, and it needs to be handled immediately. If you are a family member, please come to the city morgue to identify the body." "How much did she pay you?" Ryan's voice grew cold. "Tell her, I will marry Samantha no matter what." He hung up the phone. A few minutes later, he turned and walked toward my home. Ryan relayed the contents of the call. The living room fell silent for a few seconds. Samantha spoke first. "Ryan, Mom and Dad, don't panic. Don't you remember? Ashley's always been like this. In middle school, she didn't want to take her final exams, so she pretended to be sick. We were all so scared. But what happened? She heated the thermometer in a cup of hot water. Mom seemed to recall something, and her eyes widened. Right. That time really drove me crazy. This girl has always been full of tricks." Samantha turned her gaze to Ryan, her expression soft and soothing. This time, she probably tried to go harder, because the soft approach didn't work. But maybe she just likes you so much, willing to do anything, even hiring someone to pretend to be a police officer. Mom raised her voice, anger rising. "She's got a lot of nerve. This time, we can't indulge her. She needs to learn a lesson, to know that some things are not a joke." Dad remained silent. Finally, he sighed deeply and spoke in a low voice. "It seems we shouldn't delay the wedding any longer. Best to avoid any more complications." Let's set it for this weekend. Once things are settled, everyone can relax. As for Ashley after the wedding, she'll calm down. Trying to appease her now will only encourage her further. Ryan stood in the middle of the living room. He opened his mouth as if to say something. Samantha gently leaned into his arms, resting her forehead against his shoulder. Let's get married quickly, okay? Once we're married, everything will be settled, and maybe Ashley will give up. Mom nodded in agreement. Exactly. Let's get it over with. Let's see what tricks she has left then. Ryan closed his eyes and nodded. All right. The moment the decision was made, everyone seemed to exhale in relief. Samantha looked up at him with a teary-eyed smile, her gaze soft and full of trust. Ryan smiled back at her, reaching out to gently ruffle her hair. But when he turned his head to look at the deepening night outside the window, the smile quickly faded. A hint of uncertainty crossed his brow, one that he didn't even notice himself. The night before the wedding, Ryan didn't sleep. He sat on the living room sofa, the light from his phone illuminating his expressionless face. He repeatedly opened the chat window with me, typed, deleted, and typed again. He called my mom. His voice was hoarse. Tomorrow will Ashley come? I couldn't hear what was said on the other end of the line. Ryan gripped the phone tightly, his knuckles turning white. She used to say that if I married someone else, she would ruin the wedding. As he spoke, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, so faint it was barely noticeable. It didn't sound like worry, more like an expectation. He hung up and sat in the dark, lighting a cigarette. The ember flickered in and out. I floated across from him, watching his blurry face through the smoke. I found it a bit laughable. The next day, my parents arranged for relatives to stand by the door, to prevent me from causing a scene at the wedding. When Ryan saw them, he paused for a moment. He handed out a pack of cigarettes to each of them and told them not to hurt me. Samantha stood at the top of the stairs, gripping the sash of her robe so tightly that her knuckles turned white. But she didn't say anything. She just lowered her eyes, turned, and went back to her room. The wedding venue was filled with Juliet roses. Everyone was smiling brightly. Mom held Samantha's arm, her eyes red-rimmed. Dad stood nearby, his back straight. It was supposed to be my spot, but Samantha was standing there. The officiant cracked a joke, and the whole room erupted in laughter. Ryan laughed along, but his eyes kept drifting toward the entrance. It was time to exchange the rings. The music became solemn. Samantha, supported by the maid of honor, walked step by step toward him. The train of her wedding dress swept the ground, and her veil swayed gently. Her face was filled with shy happiness. The officiant raised his voice. Now, the bride and groom will exchange rings, symbolizing their eternal love. Samantha took the ring box from the maid of honor and opened it. The diamond ring, the one that was supposed to go on my finger, gleamed blindingly under the lights. She looked up at Ryan, her eyes shining, the corners of her mouth curving up. Ryan also looked at her, slowly extending his hand. His fingertips trembled slightly. The officiant made a joke. The groom seems a bit nervous. The guests chuckled. Samantha blushed and playfully glared at Ryan. Just then, the door to the hall was suddenly thrown open. 2 police officers walked in. Ryan's hand froze midair, the ring still not on her finger. The officers walked up to the stage, their eyes scanning Ryan, then turning to my parents. The older officer pulled out his police ID. May I ask, who is the family member of Ms. Ashley Stone? The younger officer held a transparent folder. He handed the folder to my dad. Regarding the identification and collection of Ms. Ashley Stone's remains, we made multiple attempts to contact you without success. This morning, the Forensic Center issued a final notice the body is scheduled for collective cremation according to standard procedure. This is her autopsy report. Please confirm it. Dad didn't take it. He looked as if he didn't understand, his eyes fixed on the officer. Mom covered her mouth, took a step back, and bumped into the table where the champagne tower was. Glasses swayed and shattered across the floor. Ryan's fingers loosened. The ring fell, tinkling as it rolled a few turns. He lowered head, staring at the ring. Or a long time? Ali raised his eyes to look at the officer's body. He asked, his voice light. The older officer nodded. Yes, Ms. Ashley Stone's body. It was discovered more than 4 days ago. We need a family member to confirm. Ryan's lips curled into a faint smile. Then he laughed. A low, guttural laugh that came from deep in his throat. Laughing, he suddenly stopped and raised his head, his eyes bloodshot. Just how much did she pay you to carry this charade this far? The older officer remained expressionless, unfolding the autopsy report. Please remain calm. This is an official notification. If you don't believe it, you're welcome to come back to the station with me. Ms. Ashley Stone has truly passed away. My mother's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the floor. My father staggered, bracing himself against the table, his face etched with shock. Ryan stopped laughing. In one violent motion, he seized the young officer by the collar, veins bulging along his arm. Where is she? Where are you hiding her? Ask her out now. I don't believe you. You're lying. She was waiting for me. His voice cut off abruptly, as if a hand had closed around his throat. His eyes fell on the autopsy report. It read, the deceased was 8 weeks pregnant. The report slipped slowly from Ryan's hand. My mother's sobs followed, and she picked up the report from the floor. Ashley, my daughter. She tried to grasp the paper, her hands trembling, but she couldn't hold it. Her body curled, convulsing with grief. She wasn't lying. She wasn't trying to fool us. She clearly told me it was me. I forced her to get rid of the baby. I forced her. Dad B. Though aging 20 years in an instant. E-Floor, the one that had been stepped on for a long time. A's voice trembled. Respond. He suddenly turned and staggered out. Mom scrambled to her feet and followed after him, stumbling. Ryan's car sped wildly down the road, running red lights. Inside the car, only the sound of my mom's frantic sobs and my dad's labored breathing could be heard. When they reached the morgue, Ryan slammed on the brakes and rushed into the gray-white building, ignoring my parents behind him. He opened a metal door and pulled open the drawer that contained my body. Ryan's footsteps froze in place. His eyes were fixed on the white sheet, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Mom rushed forward and collapsed beside, not daring to touch anything, only watching. She gazed at the blurry shape beneath the white sheet, at the pale fingers of my hand exposed. Ashley, I'm here. Mom's here, she muttered, covering her mouth with her hand, her fingers gripping tightly. Dad stood a little farther away, shaking uncontrollably. Ryan finally moved. He stepped forward, inching toward the bed. He reached out, his fingertips brushing the edge of the white sheet. The cold touch made him shudder. He closed his eyes, then opened them again, summoning all his strength to lift a corner of the sheet. Half of my face was revealed blue-tinged, stiff, the corners of my lips slightly pressed, as if I had been crying. Ryan stared at this face, the face he had kissed countless times, the face he had traced over and over. Again. He slowly bent down, his knees giving way, and he knelt by the bed. His forehead rested against the cold metal bed frame. I'm sorry, his voice was hoarse, as if it had been squeezed out from broken vocal cords.
What?
I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. I shouldn't have hung up. I said you were causing trouble. This head, his face streaked with tears, mixed with shot, looking utterly disheveled, gazed at my pale face, gently brushing the hair from my forehead. In his eyes, I saw a kind of deep affection that I hadn't seen in a long time. He sobbed like a helpless child. Our baby, we really had a baby. And I actually pushed you. It must have hurt a lot. That night it was snowing so heavily. Were you scared all alone? His words tumbled out in a rush, his regret flooding over him like a tidal wave. I lied to you. I've been lying to you and lying to myself. He suddenly raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face, the sound sharp and loud. Then came a second slap, and a third, each one harder than the last, turning his cheek bright red.
And swollen.
Ryan, Dad's voice was hoarse as he called out. Ryan didn't respond, his hand gripping the edge of the bed with all his might. Wake up, please.
I
Can explain. I've been afraid to explain because I was worried I'd give in. I was afraid that if I told you the truth, I could never turn you away. I married her because I thought she would die. Your parents were almost on their knees outside the hospital room, begging me to save her. I didn't want to be a killer. But I didn't expect in the end I killed our child. I am the killer, he rambled, explaining in a frenzy. I understood.
But what was the point now?
He suddenly leaned forward, his forehead slamming hard into the cold metal bed frame. I should die. I should be the one to die. Dad walked over and placed a hand on Ryan's trembling shoulder, tears running down his face. So please stop. Ashley, she can't hear you anymore. Elapsed onto the floor, as though some switch had been flipped. He fell apart again, pulling at her hair. It was me. It was me who forced her to get rid of the baby. I told her to do it. Ashley, I was wrong, come back. I'm sorry. In the cold air, only the late-coming remorse of the living could be heard. But the one who could have forgiven them, the one who could have unraveled their guilt, had fallen into an eternal sleep. In the space filled with the sound of crying, I heard the system's prompt again. Due to the maximum regret value collected, the player is granted one chance at rebirth. New identity. Cordelia Vale, an orphan. Does the player accept? I looked at their desperate wailing. Without hesitation, I chose to accept. When I woke up again, I found myself in a flower shop not far from my apartment. The shop was called Spring Never Ends. It was a place I used to visit often. The girl who used to run the shop had passed away unexpectedly. Now I had taken over her body. I would live well for her. Until one day, I encountered an unexpected guest at the flower shop. One bouquet of white chrysanthemums, please. The familiar voice was hoarse. I jerked my head up, and to my shock, it was Ryan. I quickly looked away, avoiding his gaze. I swiftly wrapped the flowers and handed them to him. $55, sir. Ryan didn't take the flowers. His eyes were fixed on the knot I had just tied on the bouquet.
It was
N, with the left side longer than the right, 2 layers crossing over. Anike, I had learned specifically for the gifts I once gave him. Demley stared at my face. A wave of unease washed over me. My hands had done it so automatically, I hadn't thought he would recognize it. I forced myself to meet his gaze. Sir, do you still want the flowers? He looked much thinner, his stubble unshaven. This knot, his voice trembled. Where did you learn to do this? I kept my face neutral. Online, there are plenty of tutorials. He hastily wiped his card to pay and left. For the next several days, he came to the shop every day. Ms., how long has the shop been open? A few months. The way you tie the knot, it's unique. I know someone who does it the same way. The length of the tails, the number of loops, it's exactly the same. Also, when she looks down, her right eyebrow lifts slightly just like you did just now. I cut a flower stem, not responding. Ashley, it's really you, isn't it? Samantha told me everything. You both must have the same system, so could it be that you're reborn? I checked. Cordelia had a serious heart condition. She should be dead. He was babbling. Incoherent, said he was losing his mind, that every day he wondered if there
was still a chance for him.
I put the scissors down and looked up at him. Mr. Brooks. My name is Cordelia Vale. Whether in the past or in the future, I am only Cordelia. His face turned pale instantly. He shook his head and suddenly grabbed my wrist. Look at me and say it. Say, you're not Ashley. I know you're angry, but give me another chance, okay? I didn't pull away, staring into his eyes. I am Cordelia. He recoiled as if burned, stumbling backward. But he didn't give up. He started bringing all sorts of gifts to the shop.
They were all things I used to like.
He froze. I didn't even look at them. Mr. Brooks, I don't need them. Please take them back. Just let me make it up to... Make it up? I laughed softly.
To whom?
To Cordelia, or to Ashley? If it's for Ashley, she's already gone. Your atonement, she'll never receive it. If it's for Cordelia, she doesn't even know you. Why should she accept any of this? He stood still for a long time. I just want to make things right. Give me a chance to start over. I'll spend my whole life compensating. Ryan. This was the first time I had called him by his name. Ashley repaid every last debt with her life. Now, standing here, it's Cordelia. Her life has nothing to do with you. The next day, the flower shop was closed. I put up a sign saying it was for sale. I packed light and boarded a southbound train without telling anyone. The scenery outside the window sped by, like the passing of time. This chapter was concluded. All connections were dissolved. The past stayed in the past.